I-864 or I-864A? Which one should your co-sponsor submit? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kseniya. I make videos for people who are going through the family immigration process. I'm not an attorney. My videos are based on public information, my own experience, and the experience of my subscribers. And the purpose of my channel is to give you guys the confidence to go through this process completely on your own. The I-864 form has a lot of different variations. There is I-864, I-864A, I-864W, I-864EZ. A lot of times people get very confused which form is more appropriate for their case. And especially this is confusing for those petitioners who don't make enough money to sponsor their relative and they need help of somebody else. Now this is where the confusion kicks in. A lot of petitioners get confused whether they should be submitting I-864 or I-864A from their co-sponsor. And in this video, we will talk about just that. The Form I-864 Affidavit of Support is submitted in 99% of cases. The exception only applies in those family-based cases where the intending immigrant, the beneficiary, has already earned 40 Social Security credits in the US, or if the beneficiary is a minor child who will become a US citizen immediately after becoming a permanent resident. In all other cases, the petitioner must submit the Affidavit of Support Form I-864, even if they don't make enough income or even if they make zero income at all. If you have a co-sponsor, this is where you need to figure out whether the additional I-864 form is needed or if you should submit the form I-864A. To make it easier for you to understand, I made the following graphic. The form I-864 is always filled out by the petitioner, and in the cases where the petitioner needs help from somebody else, the form I-864 can also be filled out by someone known as a joint sponsor. A joint sponsor can only be a US citizen or a permanent resident who is actively residing in the US. A joint sponsor who fills out an additional I-864 doesn't have to be related to the petitioner, but a joint sponsor can be related to the petitioner if they do not qualify to fill out the form I-864A, the household member form. Let's quickly review the requirements for the I-864A form. This form is filled out by the petitioner's relative who resides with the petitioner, but not just any relative. It has to be only the following people that are listed in the form instructions: the spouse, parent, child, adult son or daughter, or sibling of the sponsor, and this relative has to be living in the same principal residence as the sponsor. The I-864A form can also be filled out by someone who is not necessarily related to the petitioner, but only if the petitioner claims that person on his or her tax returns for the most recent tax year. So as we said earlier, the joint sponsor on the left-hand side of this table doesn't have to be related to the petitioner, but they can be if they don't otherwise qualify to be a household member based on the definition of the household member of the form I-864A. For example, a joint sponsor may have a brother or a sister who wants to be a co-sponsor. But if that brother or sister doesn't reside with the petitioner in the same household at the same address, in that case, just because they're related doesn't make them a household member. In that case, they will be considered a joint sponsor and will fill out the form I-864. And finally, the form I-864A is specifically called the contract between a sponsor and a household member. They didn't specify that it is a contract between the petitioner and the household member, and that is because the household member can be connected to the petitioner, but also a joint sponsor. So for example, if your joint sponsor files taxes with his or her spouse, and the spouse also wants to help by contributing their income to the green card case, in that case, the joint sponsor's spouse will fill out the form I-864A. And then the spouse in that case becomes the household member of the joint sponsor and not the petitioner. And you need to keep in mind the following big difference between these two forms. Anyone who qualifies to fill out the form I-864A can combine their income with the sponsor. For example, any household member that is included on the petitioner's affidavit of support and anyone who fills out the form I-864A can combine their income with the petitioner. On the other hand, anyone who fills out the form I-864 must bear the burden of sponsorship on their own based on their income and household size. In other words, a petitioner and a joint sponsor cannot combine their incomes together. So I hope that this video clarified for you the difference between the two and which one you should use in your case. If you have any additional questions about the affidavit of support, which is frankly the most confusing form in this process, you can check out my I-864 playlist, which I will also list in the description box of this video. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you guys in my next videos. Bye!